Good morning, everybody. My name is Celia Carney, and I'm working on the business continuity team. And I would like to welcome you all this morning to the Strategic Tourism Transport Business Continuity Scheme 2022. Before I begin, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping notes with you all. All attendee videos and audios are muted during this webinar. If you have any questions during the presentations, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you experience any audio difficulties, you can click Join Audio or Join Meeting by phone. Just to let you know also, the webinar is being recorded and will be up on our website in the coming days. During the session, we will provide you with some details on the eligibility, the qualifying criteria, funding, and finally the application processes, followed by a questions and answers session. For this session, we're going to be joined by our colleague Adrian O'Donoghue, Head of Strategy Management and Investment Analysis. For now, I'm going to hand you over to Jessica McKillop, and she's going to take you through the next part of the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Celia. Just going to share my screen. Okay, I think we're good to go. Perfect. So thanks so much for the introduction, Celia. I'm a manager here on the Business Continuity Programme with Fáilte Ireland. I'm going to be taking you through this morning's presentation. I will take no longer than about 15 minutes to go through my slides and in particular focus on some key areas. Previously, at webinars last year, we would have walked you through the application form. However, as many of you have applied before, this won't be the focus for today. So please do remember that you will be able to contact customer support for any queries on the application form, and I will share those details at the end of my slides today. Okay, so in the recent budget of 2022, Minister Catherine Martin secured 50 million for the Tourism Business Continuity Programme. So this will help to sustain strategic tourism businesses survive through the pandemic. The first of these schemes to be launched is this one that you're in attendance for, so the Strategic Tourism Transport Business Continuity Scheme, which will open for applications next Tuesday, the 11th. We'll be launching in the afternoon. There will be 4 schemes, however, scheduled between now and Easter, and there'll be more detail of those in due course on our website. So today, as Celia has outlined there already, the presentation will be broken into 4 parts. So the first part I'm going to talk to you about is the schemes and how you can find yourself eligible for the scheme itself. Then we'll move into the qualifying criteria. We'll talk a bit about the fund award value. And in particular, I want to focus a little bit on the application process, not about the application form, but more so about the tips that will help you expedite your grant award if you are eligible indeed. So for eligible businesses for this scheme, the Strategic Tourism Transport, there's 4 main cohorts. There's the coach tourism operators, tourism chauffeurs, and limousine services. So you will note that last year we had a scheme that was also the Strategic Tourism Transport Fund operated, but we ran a separate fund for coach tourism. So we're bringing these together this time round. So you may be eligible to apply once you see the criteria. Later on in the presentation, I'll discuss how the funding operates for this. Also, other cohorts that are eligible to apply here include escorted private tours, hop-on, hop-off bus tour operators, the vehicle rental sector, that is tourism vehicle rental sector though, and as well as tourism, aviation, and rail tour operators. Okay, sorry, my slides seem to be a little bit delayed. Oh, there they are, sorry. Okay, so in terms of the qualifying criteria, I suppose these are the key points that you have to make to be eligible for the scheme. So the business type, you need to satisfy one of the 4 categories that I've just outlined above. The minimum turnover, you have to have an eligible tourism turnover of €50,000 in 2019. And then importantly, the downturn in your tourism turnover needs to be 50% when comparing year on year 2021 versus 2019. So this is a change for us in our programs for 2022. We would have had this at a higher percentage previously. So we've reduced this, and hopefully this will mean that more people may be eligible to apply. You will also need to have been an existing operator. So you need to have been in existence prior to January 1st, 2020. And this is because 2019 was the last full pre-pandemic year. And it's important that you have an up-to-date tax clearance certificate. This is important because without being tax cleared, this will hold up payments. So that will make a delay in processing your grant application. The continuation of trade is important. So you need to intend to continue trading in 2022 in line with government guidance. And I suppose importantly, just on the tourism turnover as well, I might just add that you need to exclude EWSS or other government payments or state aid received. That's not to be included in your tourism turnover. Okay, so moving on to the funding award value then. So the grant amount will be based on your annual eligible turnover from 2019. And this will be 5% of the 2019 eligible tourism turnover. So the minimum grant, as you can see there on my screen, will be €2,500, and this will be based on an eligible tourism turnover of €50,000, which is the minimum to apply for the scheme. The maximum grant amount is €800,000 per applicant or group, with the maximum grant available of 800k per applicant, the group, this would be the multiple applicants from the same group of companies are considered a single undertaking for the purposes of state aid. So the 800,000 cap will apply here. Okay, this is probably the most important part of the session this morning in terms of the application process before we move into questions and answers. In particular, I suppose what we have seen previously with applications is that when you applied to us before, that those applications that were, I suppose, accurate and the information was complete, ensured that they would be processed as quickly as possible. So I have some examples there. You can see that our quickest applications were processed within 5 weeks, but the longest took about 16 weeks. So we will, of course, work with you to correct this, but it will slow down your application. So it is important to, I suppose, take the time at the outset when we have all the guidelines, the FAQs and all the material on the website next Tuesday, that's on our corporate site, to, I suppose, work through that, have a good read of everything so that you know what you need to put forward, because it will speed up the process the other side. And the second point, which I suppose is important for this application process, is that you need to ready your 2021 management accounts. So we will need your financial statements from 2019, and we'll need management accounts for 2021, so that we can see your tourism turnover, etc. I might just add that if you are a sole trader, your profit and loss accounts will suffice here as well. Just to note as well that I suppose if you have any difficulty with the application form or putting anything together, that we would direct you to customer support for any of those queries. The details will be at the end of this slide deck. So if you have applied to us before, you will not be required to provide proof of your valid license as of March 2020. And you also won't need to give the 10% evidence of your eligible tourism turnover. However, for those in the cohort of coach tourism operators, tourism chauffeur, limousine services, and escorted private tours, this will be required if you haven't applied to us before. So in terms of how to apply, we will only be accepting applications via the Fáilte Island Trade Portal, which is online. New accounts can, of course, sign up through the trade portal at fáilteisland.ie. Again, customer support can help you there. I have the number on the screen as well as their email address. We will be pre-allocating application forms to accounts that are already on the trade portal when we send out the launch emails next week. And the application form can, of course, also be requested from customer support. So the scheme itself will be open for 4 weeks, starting from next Tuesday. So it closes on the 8th of February. at 12 noon. I would advise that you would have your application form in ahead of that, just in case you have any IT issues on the day. Late applications will not be accepted under any circumstances. I would say and advise that it would be useful to, if you are having tech issues on the actual day, perhaps take a screen grab of any issues that you're having so that we can have that as evidence if we do need to consider anything because of a technical glitch. So I suppose that's really important, though, to get ahead and to try and avoid that, because we do not really allow late applications. So in conclusion, we realize these funds are really important for your business. We have three kind of main takeaways from today. So the schemes, first point is the schemes are largely similar to last year with some tweaks. Secondly, we've reduced the downturn threshold, as you can see, from 75 to 50%. So this should increase the number of people that could be eligible to apply. And finally, I would ask that the person that is responsible, whether it's yourself or someone else in your business, for completing the application form, that you take the time, because really, the 5 to 6 weeks difference in processing applications can really be, I suppose, reduced if we have complete and accurate information from yourselves as well. So that would be really helpful both for ourselves and for you, and therefore we can get the payments out to you in a fast manner, which will help you, I suppose, recover into 2022. So I think that's everything from myself in terms of the slides. I know that, Celia, I'm going to hand back to yourself now for the Q&A session that you're going to guide us through. So thanks a million.
Great, thank you, Jess. So what we'll do now is we'll go to all the questions, and we have received some during the registration. We've also received some during the live webinar, and I see Adrian has lovely Adrian has joined us, and we are now going to take the questions. So if we just get those started, what we'll do is the first question there, Jess, if you don't mind. The question is, how long will the application process take from start to payment?
Thanks a million, Celia. So like I outlined in the presentation, this varies, obviously, depending on the information that we receive from the applicant. So I would stress the accuracy and complete information is really useful to progressing your application in a timely manner. So we have seen from previous experience that this can be between 5 to 16 weeks. So obviously, we want to expedite them and complete all applications and payments as fast as possible, and we'll work with you. But if the information isn't accurate or complete, it will slow down the process.
It can slow it down. Okay.
It can, of course, yeah.
Great, great. Adrian, if you wouldn't mind taking this one, how will my grant be determined, and how long will it take to be paid?
Thanks, Celia. So the key thing, of course, is once you meet the qualifying criteria, which Jessica has outlined, the funding amount will be determined on your 2019 eligible tourism turnover figure. And that'll be important for us to understand, especially where businesses, might have maybe some domestic contracted services, for example, like the transport routes within Ireland that's not necessarily for tourism. So we obviously will want that extracted. So it's important that we establish that, and the application form will direct you so that you can make that clear for us. So 5% of your 2019 eligible tourism turnover, with a maximum cap of €800,000 per entity or per group. And also, if you have received funding from us previously, there is a larger scheme or a state aid, European Union state aid cap on the monies that we can provide of 2.3 million. But there's only a few that may come to that threshold. Just to be advised, we do have to look at all the funding that you will have received previously to understand the amount that you will receive. So if you do break the threshold, we can only go up to the cap. And if you are, like, for example, if 5% of your turnover is higher than, turns out to be higher than, let's say it's €1 million, we obviously can only fund up to €800,000. It's also, how long will it take to be paid? As Jessica outlined, very much once we have you qualified in, we move you over to payment. So it really is about making sure that you get everything right in your application form. We do our bank checks to make sure that that's correct. So once we have you correct, and there will obviously be a large amount of applications into us, But as soon as we can, we move it on in the step in our process. So it's really important that you don't drop down the process by us being delayed and having to make contact with you to sort things out. The less interaction we need to have with you and being accurate, and just taking that time will save us all time as we move through this.
Great, great. I just want to let everybody know also, as we're going through the questions and the live questions coming in, it won't be possible to answer business specific questions today, but if you need any further information relating to your own business, you can contact customer support and we'll respond to you directly through there. So the next question there, we say, Jess, would you mind, what documents can be accepted as financial statements for the application?
Thanks, Celia. So in terms of the documentation that we will accept to back up your financials, we'll need your financial statements from 2019, and then we'll need your management accounts from 2021. So I know it's early in the year, but we will need these. And I suppose just to point out that if you are a sole trader, your profit and loss accounts will suffice instead of your financial statements.
Great. Another one here, Jess, if you don't mind. Person has stated they understand they need to be 50% down in turnover in 2021 compared to 2019. Do they need to declare state supports received, example EWSS, or previous grants as part of their 2021 turnover?
Thanks, Celia. So no, they don't need to include the EWS or the previous grants as part of their turnover. Adrian did mention, though, in his previous question there about state aid. So we will have a list of the schemes that are subject to state aid in our support notes. So it would be good for applicants to declare that just to make sure that you're within the thresholds. But as Adrian has rightly pointed out, it's unlikely that anyone will be reaching the cap at this point.
At this point, okay, that's great. Adrian, if you wouldn't mind this one, my business does not meet the minimum turnover threshold of 50,000 from 2019. Am I eligible for support?
So the threshold that we have been operating is a 50,000 eligible tourism turnover for applicants from 2019. So you must meet that threshold.
Okay.
So unfortunately, if you're less than that, you don't qualify for funding under this scheme.
Okay, and just Adrian, just keep it with yourself again. It's just the 2019 turnover relating to the business financial year or the calendar year? It's
relation to the calendar year. Because it's easier for us to understand that. And I know some of you may be using non-calendar years approach to that, but if you can make an estimate or try and work with people before that, I know it's a little bit more difficult, but it makes life easier if you can give us the annual, because it's easier for us to compare, and that's where we're looking for as well, as it relates to 2019 versus 2021 downturn. Great.
Lovely. And Jess, if you wouldn't mind taking this one. Somebody has purchased their first vehicle, became self-employed in October 2019. Do they qualify for support?
Thanks, Celia. If you've purchased your first vehicle in 2019 and you meet the eligibility criteria, which includes the 50,000 eligible tourism turnover, then you are indeed eligible to apply. So you need to meet all the eligibility criteria, but one of them, I suppose, if you started in October 2019, is just to make sure you meet that 50K by the end of the year.
Okay, and just continuing on from that, Jess, there's another question in there. The business was set up in 2020. Again, can I apply? I assume it goes with that answer.
If you set up your business in 2020, you cannot apply. You need to have set up your business prior to the 1st of January 2020. And the reason for that is that 2019 was the first full year pre-pandemic before the COVID-19 crisis hit. So that's the base year that we're working with.
Great. And another one I have there, are there any age limits on vehicles when applying? Jess, would you mind?
So unlike the coach tourism scheme, which was run previously, where we did have age limits on vehicles, the strategic tourism transport scheme will have no age limits on vehicles. So we're not concerned with the age of your vehicle. We're actually concerned with your tourism turnover in this scheme. So meeting that criteria of being 50% down between 2019 versus 2021 and the 50,000 eligible tourism turnover, along with the other criteria that I pointed out, but I suppose they're the two key ones that would be different.
Great. And Adrian, would you mind taking this one? I operate more than one eligible business. Can I apply for both my businesses?
So it depends on the structure that you have in place. So you can, of course, apply for the total amount of turnover that is across all of your businesses. If there is multiple applications with the same common or ownership structure, for us under state aid rules, that must be considered as one single economic entity or unit, therefore can apply in terms of the amount of turnover that cumulatively that it brings together. And we'll be funding those ideally as one, and we can work with you if you need to clarify that. But there is a condition around a group structure, so if you have multiple businesses, you sit as a single entity as opposed to you having one individual business. And again, that has caused some challenges for us as we've worked through the schemes. We can work with you individually if there's anything on that, but it really is if you have the same common ownership control of businesses, that's considered to be the same entity, and you add them together as a group.
Great. Lovely. We have a few more there now. So Jess, would you mind, this one, is this scheme available to beneficiaries of previous schemes?
Yes, Celia, provided that you meet the eligibility criteria. Yeah.
Great. Also, Jess, you mentioned ineligible turnover. Can you give some examples again?
Of ineligible turnover, yes.
Ineligible, yes.
Yeah, no problem. So point-to-point services would be excluded here, or if you were a coach tourism business, but you also had, say, a primary school contract or a secondary school contract, that would be excluded. And say, for example, wedding car hire would also be excluded. So there's some other examples of ineligible turnover.
Okay.
All details will be in our guidelines, which will be released next Tuesday.
Great. And just on that, Jess, there's a question in, will helicopter transport services be eligible this time around under this phase?
Yes, helicopter tourism transport elements will be eligible for funding under the scheme, provided that you meet all the other eligibility criteria. So, for example, you could have sightseeing and landing trips would be included as part of a heritage tour, or you could have like hop on, hop off tours as long as they contracted for a minimum of a half day. So again, that detail will be in the guidelines, but they're very much in cohort and they are an eligible cohort.
Great. And Adrian, if you wouldn't mind taking this one. People here are saying they're 100% exclusively a tourism transport company providing day tours and overnight tours around the island of Ireland. What funding will they be eligible for?
Okay, so you would qualify in the cohort. What is important is its activity in the Republic of Ireland, given Fáilte Ireland's remit for an activity outside the jurisdiction. So we'll need to work with you to make sure that and that'll be the question in the application form. It's your activity within the Republic of Ireland, and make sure that that's clear to us. And if there's any notes or anything that you need to provide to distinguish that, that's important that it's extracted. So we will need to understand if we're operating on all island basis, that it's with activity within the Republic is what we're looking for to support that.
Great. And Adrian, just somebody's asking there, would there be a copy of the slide deck available when the call finishes? When they
Yeah, there will be. There will actually be this will be recorded, and I think we can put the slide deck as well in beside that as a PDF on our holding page on the website.
Great. And Jess, would you mind taking this one? What is the closing date to apply?
Closing date of the scheme is the 8th of February, 12 noon.
The 8th of February.
Perfect. Yeah, so it's open for 4 weeks from next Tuesday.
Okay. And then Adrian, would you mind, are there any limitations on the maximum amount awarded if, for example, a business received the full maximum of 800k in payments?
In the previous year, is it?
Yes, previous year, pardon me, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so as outlined, you if you received 800,000 last year, for example, or you can receive that again this year, subject to 5% of your turnover generating that mathematical outcome. But obviously we're looking at the 2.3 million threshold for state aid. So if you're coming up against that, then we can't fund more than that. So certainly if you receive that amount, it's possible you could be eligible for that amount again. There has been a couple of questions that I think previously that came in around, sometimes we had 7.5% to 10% in terms of eligible tourism turnover, and we're now applying 5%. That's a percentage we have adopted from the second half of last year, and it's also looking at the funding available to us and knowing the cohorts that have come in and been equitable as much as we can across the board. The higher amount of turnover we paid last year in certain instances related to the EWSS payments, where some businesses weren't receiving that, and there was an element of us supporting that at a higher level to compensate those businesses. But now where we are with our funding, it's 5% across the board, and it's a very strong number, even relatively across Europe. It's a very strong number to be providing out. So just in case that's the clarity now, we will be paying 5% across all 4 schemes. So and that has been our standard policy approach since middle of last year for the last number of schemes we've run.
Okay, great. Jess, somebody's just asking here, are management accounts necessary?
Yes, they are. We will require them because we need them to be able to compare 2019 versus 2021, because we're looking at 2 full years now for the downturn.
Okay. And also I just have a company here. They say they are inbound tour operators. They also have a vehicle tourism rental business. Which grant scheme is most applicable to them?
Thanks, Celia. So that potential applicant will be able to apply to both, provided that they can show €50,000 eligible tourism turnover distinctly for both elements of their business when they're applying separately to both schemes. Okay,
great. And Adrian, I just have one in here. Somebody was just asking if we could please reconfirm that TWSS, EWSS and the LEO grants are not going to be included as income, and also confirm that Fáilte Ireland grant aid from 2021 is not included.
Yeah, that's correct. So what we're interested in, so there's obviously 2 years we're focused on, and 2019, obviously there's no supports then. And in 2021, any of those supports, there'll be a separate area for you to provide those, so we understand what that was. In 2021, please make sure you do exclude it. So if you did receive funding under, let's say the attraction scheme that we ran last year, please don't include that in your income, because it's not actually you generating any income in terms of turnover. And just be clear, we should be able to see your accounts as well, which match that up, so we can understand that. Just in case that you put it into your accounts in that way, please do exclude it for these purposes, because it's it's obviously you not generating money from tourism, and it's not reflective of any activity, and that's what we're going to look at when we look at the 50% downturn.
Okay, perfect. And just there, Jess, somebody was just reiterating there about the 2021-22 management accounts. They have to be submitted. They need to be prepared and verified by a qualified accountant, Jess. So this could delay. So
yeah, I suppose we appreciate that. We would have flagged. Adrian actually spoke at the industry day and would have flagged that. I suppose it was important to ready yourself for these. So we'll work with you. I suppose the important thing is not to miss the deadline of the 8th of February. We do require them.
Okay, perfect. And I just go there, Jess, if you don't mind. They're just looking for confirmation that all the applications will be completed on the online portal. The application form will be sent to the portal, or would they have to go directly in to look for themselves on the Fáilte Ireland website?
So the application form will be, I suppose, allocated to those that we have, to those businesses that are within the trade portal. But if you're new, you'll need to I suppose set up a profile through the customer support team, and then the form can be allocated to you.
Okay, and once they have done that, Jess, they're wondering, will they get any acknowledgement or an email or some verification that the submission has been accepted?
Yes, normally when you submit your application form, there will be a message that appears on the screen that says, "Thank you for submitting your application form. We'll be in contact in due course." So you should receive that when you submit that, because we will have that in process. So that will happen.
Great. And also, Jess, there's somebody there just asking, if they received a grant last year from Fáilte Ireland, do they still need to prepare their 2019 accounts again?
Yeah. Yes, we'll need a copy of them, but they should have them to hand. Yeah.
Okay. And what proof will be needed to show a breakdown of the tourism work, Jess, if you wouldn't mind?
So that's why it's important that we have your account so that we can see kind of your activity. We'll also be doing other kind of, I suppose, business checks as part of our evaluation process. I suppose looking to see that your business is what you say it is that it does. I don't know, Adrian, do you want to add anything further there maybe?
No, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
That should cover it, yeah.
That should cover it there, yeah. Is there any size criteria for tourism coaches there, Jess?
There's no size criteria for tourism coaches. So this is, I suppose, different to the coach tourism scheme. So we're not concerned about the age or the size of the vehicle here on this scheme. Here we are using the business continuity parameters. So it's the 50,000, eligible tourism turnover and 50% downturn between 2021 and 2019.
And just to add to that, it would be important, as we mentioned before, to distinguish between if you're coach tourism, within, and we did that last time for a specific reason. So we'll have an understanding of your business now, and just explain to us when we look at that your total turnover and then your relative tourism turnover as well. So that we'll see that difference hopefully in the application form when we work through it too.
Okay. And the next one there, somebody's inquiring, can you let them know if 10% proof of turnover is required if they have applied before, Jess?
If you've applied before, we have it on file, we won't need that again. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And Adrian, if you wouldn't mind, somebody here saying, if I was a sole trader and changed to a limited company January 2020, I presume I can still apply using sole trader figures for 2019.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I mean, we're looking at what you were in 2019. I suppose what it will be important for us to understand what your business is, in 2021. If it's only more legally or technically, that's probably okay. We may need to just clarify that with you, but I think on the basis of that assumption, it should be fine. And just apply on that basis, and we can work with you then.
Okay, and Adrian, sorry, somebody's just popped in there. PUP payments, the PUP, would that be deemed as income for 2021?
No, it wouldn't.
No, that's not deemed. Okay, that's great. And just another one there, Adrian, if you wouldn't mind, is the 50% criteria specific to the overall company accounts or to the qualifying portion of activity?
Yeah, so it's the latter, it's the qualifying portion. So, it's obviously related to the tourism turnover, and that's where our focus is. So, if your business was down, only 30% in the other area, well, obviously that doesn't impact us. We're more worried about how you've got on from a tourism activity perspective.
Okay, and somebody's just asking there, would the management accounts have to be completed by an accountant or from a business admin? So.
Sorry, Celia, who are you giving that
to? Yourself, Jess, sorry, pardon me, sorry.
Sorry. So my understanding is that we just need your management 2021 accounts completed by yourself. But if your financial statements need to be signed off, that's different. They have to be signed off from 2019.
Okay. And Adrian, if you wouldn't mind there, is this replacing Coach Tourism Scheme grant for 2022, pardon me, or will there be another Coach Tourism grant later this year?
So we've been given 50 million for this year for business continuity funding. We're operating 4 schemes, and this is the tourism transport, one of the 4 that we have, and included, and all coach tourism activity is included in this scheme. So from a funding perspective and policy perspective, this is where anyone who's operated coach tourism last year will apply.
Okay. And we just have another one just popped in there. Will management accounts from the beginning of January 2021 to the end of December 2021 suffice for the application? Jess?
Management accounts from 2019
January. Yeah, they're saying January 21 to December 21. Would they suffice?
Yeah, I don't see why not. They're perfect.
Yeah, that's the calendar year.
Yeah,
so that's
calendar
perfect.
year.
Yeah, it's a full calendar year. Yeah. I think we're getting near the end now, guys. So what I'll do is I think we can actually round it up, unless Jess or Adrian like to add anything else on there.
Maybe just as a final comment again, just to reiterate, if you can focus on the accuracy of your application, that will really help us to to get the monies to you once you qualify in. The application form will be similar to probably what you've seen before, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to work with. And we have made some compensations as well in terms of the provision of information if you provided it to before, and that's what Jess has outlined. So if you can work with us, we will try and get these important monies out to you, given where we are at the moment with the economy and tourism. We want to get these out as quickly as we can. So please do your best to help with us. And even, if you have a question before you make the submission, please do go through the options that we have. The less interactions we need to have with you, the quicker we can move it on and get you funding. So I suppose that's probably our key message from today. And obviously the guidelines, etc., will be available from Tuesday. Isn't that right, Jessica?
Yeah, from Tuesday. Yeah, on our corporate site. So it'll be up there, as well as FAQs and the webinar that we're recording here. Everything will be up there, so everyone can watch it back as well. In terms of if they want to go back over the details.
Okay, so all I can say then is thanks everybody for the attendance today. As Jess and Adrian said, further information will be available on the website. The scheme will open next Tuesday, the 11th of January, and you'll find all the information on the www.failteireland.ie site under the funding section. People then that have been been registered before, they will get it through their portal. And if you have any queries, if you'd like to contact us on our customer support email address, they will help you there with that. Thanks very much. Have a great morning.